So now we're on the last part of the bed installation for the free floating, like don't need to weld kind of bed. I know there's been a bunch of little steps in here. We started by installing the RB component plate behind, drilling the holes, installing the plus nuts to bolt the brackets to. Now that we have the wall up, we have our first initial bracket, and we have this initial bracket bolted in with the big ugly bolts. And so now what we want to do is we want to take our finishing piece, which is a 1/2-inch piece of plywood. We're again using Baltic Birch, and this nicely trims everything up, and then it gives you, instead of a 1/2-inch space to put your bed rails on, you have a nice 1-inch piece of wood that your bed is gonna rest on, and it is super, super strong. We just use number 8. We use stainless screws for this because we want everything to look pretty. Use some kind of countersink screw. We use an oval head countersink so it just looks nice and flush and pretty. Again, this is your choice, but a couple extra bucks for stainless oval heads, it goes a long way. So we'll just install these. Oop, this guy right here. So now, on either side, we've covered up our bolts, we've extended and made our bed rail a little bit thicker, and now we have a nice place to put our 1-inch square tubing on. So this is, again, you can do all this stuff by hand, or we sell these things on our website. So whatever floats your boat, whatever your budget is running, this is a great way to build a bed. For our bed rail, we use 16 gauge, 1-inch square tubing. And for practicality's sake, you can get these things powder coated, or you can just put a coat of clear coat on there yourself. This stuff is pretty cheap. It's very lightweight. And another nice little thing is we like to get a little plastic end cap on there as well. So that will protect your walls from getting scratched, and it also makes the fit a little bit tighter. And then one other thing with this square tubing, you're always gonna have a line right here. And that is it's like a weld seam. I don't know, they fold this stuff over and then they weld it right here. This stuff is very hard to drill through. And it's kind of ugly, so be cognizant of where you face that if you are just clear coating it. So have it face on the inside or something like that. And you start placing these guys right inside their little slots. So in the front and in the rear, we like to get 2 bars that are only about 6 inches apart. And the reason being is if you only had one at the end and you jumped up on this, you would bend a single one. So you get 2 of them close together, and then they'll stay together and they won't bend or break. So this stuff is very thin and it's very light. A lot of people wonder why we don't use aluminum, but for what it is, it's not, the weight difference isn't too great. And this stuff is very strong. And again, it affords you so much space. You don't have this big frame built underneath the bed to hold this bed up in the air. It's just like this free floating, very elegant looking little bed that is also very simple. It's not this crazy thing that, you know, requires a whole bunch of special tooling or big brackets or anything. You can cut all this stuff with a jigsaw, a table saw, whatever way you want to do it. So it's a great way to do a bed. And there you have it. There is your bed, and it's nice to be able to throw this last thing in there, and then from this point, you can use whatever you want to put over the top of this. We use either 1/2-inch Plywood, which is a bamboo plywood, or 1/2-inch Baltic Birch wrapped in phoss, like a speaker cover. Same thing that they have these wheel wells. What we've found is it's easiest to do it cut them in lengthways. So the van is usually pretty tight to get a full sheet and then toss it in sideways and have your seam in the middle. So we'll either split the bed platform right down the middle, or we'll do it from here on over to 48 inches and then a smaller piece. And the reason being, as you see how this van tapers up, getting that piece of plywood in, it doesn't quite fit. So you put your bigger piece in, set it down, and then you'll set the thinner piece in. Otherwise, if it is like one wide piece, it just hits the walls, it scuffs stuff up, it doesn't quite fit. And again, we have 36 inches of clearance underneath the bed, so this is a perfect height for storing mountain bikes, crash pads. If you want to, it's just nice to have a big garage area. You can keep all your D-rings and such in here, so that way you can strap down all of your gear. It's just nice to be able to haul your gear. And if you're anything like me, you have a lot of gear. So this is our north-south orientation, and this is perfect for taller people. It's more of a full-size bed. We'll cut the bed platform all the way out to the door, so that way you have this full length, and you know, your feet aren't hanging off the bed, you're not cramped between two walls. But if you want to sleep sideways, east-west, I would recommend getting flares. They're a pretty expensive component, but we can show you what that looks like in another van over here. This van is getting flares, so if you're gonna install the flares, you need to cut this whole section out, and then you glue the flare right onto the outside of the van. It's a pretty expensive, the flares are pretty expensive, but in my opinion, it's a must-have. Saves you a ton of room inside the van, and it just looks better, and it makes your van far more efficient. So this is a 170, and this is what the finished flares look like. So instead of sleeping this direction, you sleep sideways. And what's great about this is they will accommodate up to someone who's 6'4", and so it's a decent amount of room. East-west orientation. This is what I recommend, but flares are expensive, and if you can't afford that, the north-south works really well as well.